Okay. Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to our live. We are talking about 3 ways that I cultivated joy when I was burnt out. So let me go ahead and post this on the title on Instagram so we know what we're talking about here. Let me pin that comment. So, hi, go ahead and let me know when you're here. And this is my first time going live directly on YouTube. I usually like have a software that can go live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, but it was acting up today. So we're just doing YouTube and I'm going to upload this to Facebook. So sorry to all the Facebook ladies who couldn't join me live, but happy that you're watching the replay. So hi. Welcome. Like I said, today we are talking about 3 ways I cultivated joy when burnt out. So, being burnt out is such a common experience between, hold on, let me get a drink of water. No, where that came from. I might need to get some more. But being burnt out is such a common experience between trying to show up for everybody, do all the right things, even trying to show up in our own healing and recovery process, and feeling like we're constantly doing, and not really having enough rest. I feel like this I don't know if it's resurgence or um, you know fixation on having the soft life is so needed because so many of us have really struggled for so long repressing our needs and not really taking care of ourselves, and it ends up showing up in our bodies. It shows up in us being very tired and us feeling very resentful and us not being able to show up as our best self in relationships, and really needing to have a break but not knowing how to get there. So I wanted to do this live to talk about 3 ways that I have cultivated joy in my life after struggling with burnout. So for those of you who don't know, I burnout has been such a very, even though I talk about relationships, I talk about my story and I talk about all that stuff, my relationship with burnout has also been like is run parallel with all of this. Burnout has happened for me because really wanting to overexert myself to show up for everybody, whether or not showing up for my clients, but for sure showing up for romantic partners, showing up for other people um, to make them happy, to make them proud of me. Because as a healer, you're supposed to take care of everybody else outside of yourselves. And also, I didn't really have a stop button. I didn't really know when was too much and what was not enough. I didn't realize when I was abandoning myself until my body um, revolted on me, until I ended up going to the hospital, until I ended up not being able to show for the things that I wanted to show up for. And so that was physical burnout. Emotional burnout looks like me not really having energy to be around the people who I really enjoyed, being around people who used to make me happy, people who I would used to like going on talking on the phone with them and going out with them in real life. And then once I'm burnt out, all I wanted to do was lay down. I just wanted to lay down. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to do anything. And resting and having that alone time is fine. But one way for you to know that you're burnt out is that it's never enough. Like there's never enough Netflixing that's going to make you feel rested and refreshed. There's never enough, um, again, laying down and sleeping. There's never enough of anything because it starts from within. And so it starts with your own boundaries with yourself. And so, for anybody who's struggling with burnout, I wanted to talk about some ways that you can cultivate joy, because, again, it starts with us. It doesn't start with what other people are going to give us or whether or not our bosses are going to give us time off. I mean, of course, that helps for sure, but it all starts with our own personal decisions. So if that is something that you want to learn about, let me know in the chat. I'm going to take another drink of water because I can feel another froggy coming up. But yes, let me know. Is burnout something that you are currently struggling with, that you struggled with in the past, something that has been hard for you to get your hands on? And let me take this drink because I know there's a delay. Oh, all right. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So the first thing that I have done to cultivate joy when I was struggling with burnout and I was really losing myself, this also came to mind because we're doing our Reclaiming Me workshop, or I'm doing our Reclaiming Me workshop in October, where we are working through all the ways that we will lose ourselves through disappointment, through being who other people want us to be. And even when we are fully connected to who we think we're fully connected to who we are, we're still struggling with this ache, like there's still something missing, there's still something that's not connecting, there's still something that feels like I'm so close but I feel like I'm so far from it. And how do I come home to myself? How do I finally feel like this is enough, that I feel rested, that I feel connected to myself? I mean, thinking about the things that go into the ways that we lose ourselves, being burnt out and not having boundaries with ourselves is part of that. So we're doing our workshop in October, so this leads into that. So one of the first things that I did to work through burnout is I eliminated stressors in the form of relationships and people who just completely drained me. Okay, so I'm gonna say that again. First thing I recommend that you do is to eliminate relationships and people who stress you the F out and contribute to your burnout. Okay. Oh, I didn't say this before. As you listen, if there are any questions or any thoughts that come up, any ways that you're like, how do I do that, or why, or this is what I tried to do and it didn't work out, feel free to share that in the chat. And if I see it, I can come back to it. But eliminating stressors. So I talk a lot about making sure that you're around people and relationships that are available to you. And where that comes in at, or what that means, is availability looks like, in short, is people who have your best interests at heart and care about you being happy and also are able to take care of their own happiness. So people who are unavailable are those who may be energy vampires and want to drain you. They can look like the people who are always negative and maybe want to one up you or always have something to say to like do be devil's advocate, but they're never actually contributing to your growth. They are people that you feel like you need to take care of. So not only are you focusing on your own self-care and your own journey, your own things that you need to worry about, you're worried about them too, and they kind of make it so that their movement is related to what you do or what you don't do. And so it's really important to identify these people who have been draining you, these people who are not adding to your life, because it's added weight. I think a lot of times it could be very easy to feel like, okay, I just need to have a conversation with them to let them know where I am and what I'm feeling. And y'all know I'm all about conversation and communicating what it is that you need. However, when you're at a place of burnout and you feel like you just can't function, we can over we can give energy to relationships that are showing signs that they are people who really don't have the capacity to give us what we need. They don't know how to, they don't want to. And so we'll spend our time and our energy really trying to get them to be on the same page so that I can finally rest, so that we can finally rest, when really we need to leave them to their own devices. We need to really focus on building a world and a sense of safety, that's something that we create versus being dependent on other people. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay. I saw that there was a question. Thank you for the hearts. It lets me know that like this is making sense, that this is connecting. Um, BB Vision says, where does self care fit into creating a routine for winding down and preparing for the next day? Ooh, that's a great question. Let me see. I am, do I talk about that now? Hmm. Hmm. Where does self care fit into a routine for winding down and preparing for the next day? I'm going to put that one at the end, my love, because I feel like that's going to I think that's going to be more connected to the last point that I have. So that's a great question. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So Proverbs says, yes, she's going through that right now, eliminating other people. So what gets in the way, y'all, of eliminating people who are stressors? What are some of the things that maybe y'all have experienced that have stopped that from happening. If you've had any issues, maybe you're someone who this is very easy for you to cut out people who are stressors. Um, if this is very easy for you, if it's always been easy for you, usually that's when I challenge people when I'm talking to you like face to face. Um, Usually I ask more questions to say, okay, is it that you're very quick to cut and run in relationships altogether? Because even though we're like working on getting you emotionally stable and out of burnout, um, there's also the fact that we may need to look at, is it hard for you to have long-standing relationships with people? Are you very quick to um, find criticisms of the people around you, which makes it easy for you to run. And so you can't really tolerate relationships in general. Um, your attraction to the person can create barriers. Yeah, if you are very attracted to someone and you know that they're trouble or you know that they're a distraction and you know that they are really adding anything to your life outside of to-do list or outside of worry and concern, if you are more connected to your attraction to them versus what it is that feels good for you and what's safe for you, absolutely, it's going to make it really hard for you to let go. And sometimes the attraction is not just romantic or sexual. Sometimes the attraction looks like the codependent attraction, which is if I make space for myself, if I take care of myself, who's going to take care of them? Like, what are they going to do without me? And feeling this over responsibility for other adults or other people, or even other like minors. You know, sometimes there are people who need to figure out what they need to figure out and they need to take their own path to get there. And no matter what you do, you can't overcompensate for the journey that they make. And also, you can't help them if you're not helping yourself, right? So, the first thing that I would do to cultivate joy when struggling with burnout is to eliminate people who are not going to help me emotionally, mentally, physically, sexually, spiritually. Um, get those folks out. Um, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about too at the workshop is really identifying who are these people and making plans to shift things around, and also not really focusing just on the problem, but also on the solution. How do we find these two parts of that? How do we find people who are available for us, who can support us when we are burnt out, when we feel like we're doing this all on our own and we're feeling overwhelmed? How do we find them? And then two, once we find them, how do we let them in? Because just because I have someone who's available and wants to help me and wants to support me doesn't mean I know how to receive that and know how to ask for it. And receiving is not just excuse me, receiving is not just, hey, can you help me? Is learning how to get your body out of the trauma response, out of the fight or flight, out of the fear of being seen and fear of being loved, to let people in, and you can't outthink yourself out of that. You can know, oh, I struggle with letting people in, I struggle with trust. But actually, like letting your body feel safe, to let people love you, to let people touch you. For anyone who has struggled with touch deprivation, if there's anybody here who didn't have parents or loved ones who touched them like in a loving way, so that you didn't really get a lot of hugs or you didn't really get a lot of kisses and you didn't really get a lot of physical affection, um, or you did get it, but it meant something else. For some of us, literally someone reaching out to touch us is fearful. So if someone is just like, say this is you and they're walking by and they're just like, hey girl, I just wanted to tell you something. This is scary to you. This is terrifying to you because you've never had gentle and loving touch. Like you literally don't know how to receive touch. And this is outside of, just temperament, and some people like touch and some people don't. Some of us, part of our trauma is not having loving affection and touch. And so again, coming from like the inside out, top bottom, is more than just physically or it's more than just logically trying to think, okay, I'm going to let people in. It is a whole 360 approach that we have to take to taking our time with this. Okay. She is Yana says this one is right on time. Awesome. Great. I'm happy that this is right on time for you. Feel free to share how this connects with you in the chat. So, okay, are we ready for the second one? The second way that we can cultivate joy when we are burnt out. If you're ready for the second one, go ahead and put a 2 in the chat. Put a 2 in the chat for me. and let me know a two or a heart. I like the hearts too. A two or a heart. And we're going to talk about the second way that you can cultivate joy when you are stressed or when you are dealing with burnout. Thank you for the two, Boo, and thank you for the hearts. Okay. Um, the second thing is prioritizing rest. So I think I'm actually going to get to your question now. The second way that I have cultivated joy when surrounded by burnout is to prioritize rest over work and responsibilities. Prioritize rest and work over responsibilities. Now, this is going to sound easier said than done, or easy for you to say when you work a 9 to 5, when you travel, and then you travel on top of it, or you are a single parent, like me, or you are really, you have a lot of, you're a caretaker and all this other stuff. Here's what I have learned through the years of burnout and stress and my body giving up and just it really affecting my mind, adding to depression, anxiety, and all those other things. If you keep waiting for life to make it easy for you to take breaks instead of you aggressively taking it, you aggressively putting your feet down and making it happen, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen because life is going to always life. There's always going to be something. Two, that phrase that says you teach people how to treat you, which is why I remember there was one time when I was really struggling with burnout when I was still working. And I was working out of school, actually. I was working out of school as a school counselor. And I had said, okay, I had plenty of time off. And I was like, I really need some time off because I could feel like symptoms of PTSD and some other things really affecting me. And there was all this like, well, we really need you. And can you like work part time and like all this stuff, right? And so I felt like really guilty. And I was like, okay, for the kids, like they need me. Like I'm an integral part of this like organization. Like I need to be here, right? Then I saw a colleague who was a teacher who came in with a doctor's note and said, I'm going to be out for the next 2 or 3 months, and I will return on this date. And she just turned in the letter and she left. And I watched that and I was like, that's not like, I was like, how come she gets to go and da 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 da? We both had the ability to take whatever leave that we needed to take, but I was waiting for permission from other people and I was letting guilt and shame and this messiah complex and like this inability to like really connect and like defend myself and stand up for myself. I was letting all of that get in the way. And also, the third part of that is you have to aggressively take it because you need to create new neural pathways in your brain to teach you how to prioritize you. So, no matter how much you say I'm the priority and this is what I want and everything else, until you're actually acting in it, until you're actually making it happen, your brain doesn't know how to do it. So waiting for a boss or waiting for a lover or partner or waiting for your kids or waiting for somebody else to turn to you and say, hey, Sarah, you know what? You look tired. You need a break. You're going to be waiting till the cows come home. You're going to be waiting, like, go ahead and wait for some ice to freeze over in the place down below because it's not going to happen. You have to be your advocate. So that looks like you looking at what feels like an impossible situation that you could never take any breaks from, right? At the time that this happened, it was Hurricane Harvey. So y'all remember, some of y'all may know, but like years ago, there was a devastating hurricane that happened here in Houston, Texas. And so many people died and so many people were displaced. It was the worst flood. I mean, we flood all the time, but like places that never flooded, and like all this stuff. Like it was horrible, right? And so this is happening. These kids are displaced. Kids I've been around like for years. I really did love my job. And so, um, but then I was like, well, what am I going to do about like money and like all this other stuff? So I saw it through a lens of impossibility when really I had a whole lot of other options. So sometimes we have to aggressively be like, look, what's the priority? The priority is my mental health. The priority is if I can't function, then I'm not going to be able to show up to work. I'm not going to be able to show up for my family. I'm not going to be able to show up for my partner. I'm not going to be able to show up for my friends, right? So if I'm not good, then ain't nothing going to be good. So how do I get bare bones, start to give myself what it is that I need? So going back to the second point is prioritizing rest over work and responsibilities. So, for me, that was an extreme example. I did need to have like a complete time off, like because I was in such a mental health crisis at that point. But in our everyday life, and for those of us who have like 9 to 5 jobs, it looks like where is it that I can make pockets for rest? So here are some examples. And I understand that this might not fit everybody's schedule, but I'm just throwing this out here to get like your imagination running. Okay, let's say I worked a 9 to 5, and I had meetings, I had all these responsibilities, I had reports that I had to write. I would, old version of Sheena, would work, eat at her desk, and not take breaks. Or if I took breaks, I would take it with other people because, extrovert, social, that kind of thing. If I was struggling with burnout and just needing breaks and knowing that I needed to, for whatever reason, this job, like there really wasn't a possibility for me to shift into part time, I would be very aggressive about taking breaks, taking lunch breaks, and I would leave the place. I would go sit in my car. I would turn off all I would turn off all the lights. I would hide in my office. I would do whatever it is that I needed to do to get away. And um, it would be more than just lunchtime. I would not, if I'm at a mental health burnout crisis, I would do lunch, but then also I would take breaks in between. I would say, okay, now I'm going to go hide in my car or hide in the bathroom for another 5 or 10 minutes and just sit in the stall and breathe. Put on some headphones and do whatever it is that I need to do. Okay, now this is just that example, but that's if I was struggling with working too much. If there was other burnout around not getting enough sleep or something like that, I would have a different plan. Is that making sense, y'all? Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. This part I do want y'all to kind of tell me if it's tracking before I finish the point, which I think I'm pretty close to finishing the point right now. But let me know if that makes sense. Let me know what holes. Thank you for the hearts. Let me know what holes may be in what I just shared. If for anyone that doesn't make sense for, or that's like, I would love to do that, but let me know if there are any buts. If there are no buts, then great. But I really want to emphasize that we have to be our greatest advocates, and sometimes it may look like thinking outside of the box. Okay, so so that's settled. So the question from earlier. Oh, hey, beautiful. I love you listening to you. Hey, one way home. Good to see you. So the question from earlier that said, scrolling all the way up, where does self care fit into creating a routine for winding down and preparing for the next day? So self care is pretty much the nature of the whole question, right? So um, how you so okay, so let's talk about what self care would not look like in that situation. So like bring back what it does look like. So if I'm not winding down effectively for sleep and preparing for the next day, that looks like I get home from work or responsibilities or whatever it is that I'm doing with my day, and I get home and I plop into bed with my clothes on. I don't eat dinner. If I do eat, I eat. For those of y'all who are on TikTok, there's that trend of girl dinner. I don't know if that's on your FYP, but I have girl dinner, or I have, which is just basically saying like snacks, right? So I get a box of Cheez Its, I walk straight to my room, and I pop some cheeses in my mouth and I crash, right? I scroll on my phone and I like barely take off my clothes and maybe do some pajamas, but I'm on my phone until I fall asleep, or I'm watching TV until I fall asleep. Maybe I wash my face. Maybe I wash my face because I'm like, let's say we're really struggling with self care. So maybe sometimes you wash your makeup off, sometimes you don't, if you even wear makeup, right? Um, but you just crash. Like there's no ritual, there's no softness, there's no self care, there's no intimate relationship. One thing, and I think I said this on a recent podcast episode, one thing that I can do to kind of test out if I'm actually acting in integrity, or if I'm acting in my love addiction, is I will test out, would I do this if there was a man here? Like when I'm like really like deep in like when I was really deep in like love addiction stuff, I would be like, okay, would I do this if this was a man, or if a man was here? So I gave an example. Did I give this example on the podcast the other day? I don't think I did. I don't think this. I don't think this is an example I gave. So let's say there was someone who was on my phone, someone who was on my phone who was like texting me as like a really good friend. Um, would I take the same amount of time to respond to her if she was a romantic interest that I was really interested in? Okay. For some of y'all, the answer is yes. Y'all don't respond to nobody. But some of y'all, when there is a romantic interest around, you are a little bit quicker with responding to the text, but maybe there's some other people in your life that you are not. So when it comes to self care, I'll bring this all back to self care. Um, if there was other people around, I'm giving this example because I teach folks who struggle with love addiction, so it feels pertinent. Maybe it's not for some people who are listening. If you're someone who's more love avoided, maybe you're like, I have never. But if someone struggles with love addiction, which is kind of putting yourself last to take care of other people and to be what other people want you to be, would you self deny? Like, do you take better care of yourself for the gaze, for the approval, for the acceptance, for the competition with other people, right? Let me know if that's tracking. Let me scroll down so I can see what you're saying. Okay. Rose from Concrete says it's tracking. Awesome. Sometimes we get so stuck in survival mode that taking care of ourselves feels like a luxury. But you're right, we have to think out of the box or we'll only get the same results. Yeah, and so where do we learn to that point? Where do we learn that taking care of ourselves was a luxury? So So the examples that I gave, right, about, well, I didn't even give examples. So the opposite of like showing up for yourself would be um, taking off your clothes, putting on clothes that actually feel good for you, that you feel like yummy to like sleep in, right? I love my baby doll nighties. Like I love them with like the laces and everything else. Like that makes me feel yummy and makes me feel good to like sleep in. So are there rituals around cleansing myself that makes me feel good? Lighting candles, like romancing myself. Do I take time to romance myself and love on myself? Like that is a very succinct way to talk about what self care can and does look like when we talk about winding down. Like how do I treat myself? Not just how do I treat myself, like take care of myself, but how do I treat, romance, adore myself, right? And is that an everyday thing? Or do I treat it like a luxury? So back to what I was going to say, when did we learn that our relationship with ourselves was a luxury? And why is it so much easier to do really nice things sometimes for friends and for lovers and for family? Like we're great about planning birthday parties and planning brunches and planning gifts and being intentional about letting our girlfriends feel loved or making our partners feel loved or taking care of our mom or our brother or whoever else. But when it comes to us, we get scraps if anything, you know? And so it is very important to romance and love ourselves. Truly, truly build that relationship with ourselves. Okay? I see the hearts. Let me know if that's making sense for everybody. Okay? So, did I answer your question? Let me know if I answer your question. But while I'm doing that, let's go to the third point. The third way that I have, and then I got to go. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go do mom life stuff. The third way that I've cultivated joy in the midst of burnout Let me know if you're ready with a three in the chat, with a three in the chat. And while I'm waiting for that three in the chat or those hearts in the chat, these are all different concepts that we're going to be talking about, and really going deep into finding our voice, finding what feels good to us at the Reclaiming Me workshop. It is currently on early bird pricing. The price will go up after next week. After, is that next week? I think it's next week. I believe the 24th, whatever date that is. So we have another week and some change of early bird pricing. I would suggest that you get your tickets. There are virtual tickets available in addition to in-person tickets. I'm going to beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to go to Charlotte for such a long time, and I am so excited to see y'all in person with the mountains and the culture and the city and the vibes. I hear that Charlotte is great. So I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Charlotte. People got stuff to say about Houston, which is where I'm from, which they're haters. But I've heard people say things about Houston, about Atlanta, about every other city but Charlotte. So I'm really excited to go to a place of beauty and hug on y'all, love on y'all, and see y'all in person, and then of course help you online. So you can sign up for that by going to blackgirlsheal.org/reclaim. We're talking about reclaiming ourselves, healing from disappointment, moving forward, learning how to love ourselves deeper, and all the things that come with that. Okay. Number three, thank you for the threes, ladies. So, number three, the third way that I learned how to cultivate joy when struggling with burnout is I allowed myself to take my time. I allowed myself to take my time. What does that mean? I, like many perfectionists, can have a tendency to want to rush through things and get things done now. So we see that there's a problem and we want to have a solution. We want to be healed. We're ready. Like, tell me the steps, tell me what to do, right? And to let it happen now. So, one of the ways to work through burnout, in addition to making space and learning how to rest, is also incorporating pleasure. That's why is there's never enough sleep and rest that you can get because there's different types of rest. Sometimes your body needs sleep. Sometimes your body needs pleasure. Sometimes your body needs rejuvenation. Sometimes your body needs rest emotionally. Sometimes it needs rest spiritually. Sometimes it needs rest physically. Sometimes it needs rest sexually. Like, so the ways that you may be trying to connect to your body to heal it, to rejuvenate it, is never enough because you're using the wrong tools, right? But for everybody, when you are struggling with burnout and you are at a place where you feel really lost and not able to connect to yourself, one of the signs, and I just got through doing a podcast interview with Black Girl Burnout, which is a really great podcast that talks more about this. Um, Kelly Bronner, the host, we were talking, and she said, one of the ways that she could tell that people are healing from burnout is that they start to dream again. They start to laugh again. They start to find joy again, right? And so I know that, and I know, okay, I'm burnt out, so I need to rest, and I need to heal, and I need to have fun. And so I would want to do all those things in one fell swoop. And I would stress myself out trying to be happy. And so one of the things that I've had to learn is I've really had to work on my lack and poverty mentality and my scarcity mentality, which affects everything. It affects not only is there going to be enough money, but also affects is there enough time? Like, I don't have time to do all the things. That's part of a lack mentality. Um, I don't have enough energy to do everything. There's if I don't do it right now, then I'm going to miss my chance. All of those things really makes it hard for you to be present here in the moment and enjoy things as they come. So I have a whole list of different hobbies and things that I really love and that I enjoy, from swing dancing and line dancing to music to learning languages to video games to board games to puzzles, which, by the way, I haven't messaged the board game ladies. Ah, I need to do that. I'm gonna do that tomorrow morning because I don't want to message people late at night. But I have a whole lot of things that I like to do, and so if I try to like fill my schedule with all the things, it stops it from being I'm doing these things for fun. But now these are to-do lists. Now these are tasks. Now these are things that kind of lose their full joy. So what I want to emphasize for y'all, the way I would really encourage y'all to take what I'm saying there, is give yourself the time to work through this and to learn. to not feel like you have to have this all figured out immediately. And I know that we know that, but I think when like you're really struggling and you're really tired, you're tired of feeling sick and tired, and you're just like, I'm ready for this to be over. And like I'm all for taking it slow and I'm all for being gracious with myself, but I really just need a break. And I'm telling you, the way that you give yourself a break is you allow yourself to not have to work so hard at everything, including your healing process. This looks like trust. It looks like self-trust. It looks like starting to trust yourself to know that as long as I am keeping my eye on myself and I'm keeping connected to myself, whatever decision I make is going to be the right decision. So I'm not going to worry about, well, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do next week? And what about what I did yesterday? Right here in this moment, I trust myself to make the right decision for myself. And building off that, that's what creates safety. That's what creates you being able to relax, because you know no matter what happens you have yourself, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if y'all have any questions about that, because I gotta go. Like I said, I have like a minute before I have to turn the live off. Did that make sense? Let me know if that was helpful. And thank you for everyone who's joining. Good to see y'all. Okay, great. Thank you for the hearts. All right. I'm happy that was helpful. And yeah, you're so welcome. Okay. So that's it for today. I talked about on our podcast, and this is a little bit of a change of topic. I talked about on the podcast for this week how um, we're going to be going back to basics for a lot of things. Yes, this live will be saved. Um, we're going back to basics. I've taught on Black Girls Heal for 5 years now, and I've taught on podcasts and on platforms in general about love addiction, sex addiction, and those things for 7 years, 7-ish years. And so I've talked about a lot of things, and I can talk about a different topic every week. But I really want to make sure that we are building on foundational beliefs. So there are going to be some core tenets and topics that I'm going to be coming back to. So I'm going to be doing that on the podcast, and I'm also going to be doing it here. So I'm really excited about that. I revamped our free roadmap. So if you're, I mean, the roadmap has been downloaded thousands of times, but I have updated it. So I've adjusted the steps in the roadmap. For those of you who don't know, I have a free roadmap. Don't download it now because it hasn't been re-uploaded yet. But it has 3 different roadmaps in it. So, what are the steps to go from being love addicted to love balance, from being love avoidant to love available, and from being love deprived to being love nourished? And so, in that roadmap, I mean, you can download the current one now, but in the roadmap, there's a set of steps, and I've updated the steps. I've also added more information to the roadmap to talk about these are the roadblocks, these are the hurdles that you're going to experience, and that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited about going over this. So we're going to be going over the roadmap at our future lives, and also on the podcast, and some other topics as well. So stay tuned. If you don't have notifications on, make sure you have them on. I will be emailing out what those topics are going to look like too. So if you're not on our list, you can join our list and go to blackgirlsheal.org/list. Um, because I know there's a lot of different moving parts and things going on. So that's it for now, y'all. I hope y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you later this week. Bye. Bye, YouTube. See you later.